When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always The Last Show with David Cooper.
A man online asks, would he be the expletive starting with the letter A if he supported his daughter's veganism, but refused when she asked him to stop eating meat altogether? This story has gotten some interesting opinions online, but there's something deeper there. We're here with licensed therapist who runs Laurel Therapy Collective, serving California and Florida, to discuss this one, Laurel Toorn. Laurel, welcome to the show.
Hi.
This is kind of a fun one, I guess. I mean, everyone gets so fired up over veganism, and I never know why. Do you want to describe what happened with this guy and why he's worried about his daughter and what people are saying?
Yeah, so it sounds like a really loving father of a 14-year-old girl, and 14-year-old is doing the teenage thing of finding her identity, right? And really finding a lot of meaning and value in adopting veganism. And I think it's really wonderful when parents support their children exploring identity and values and meaning. Like, that's all good stuff. And I think he approached it really beautifully. Like, yep, absolutely. He increased the grocery budget so that they could have more vegan options at home, and just really made an effort to understand and support her. And that was all great. And then it took a little bit of a turn in that she was requesting that the parents not eat meat at home. And if they were going to eat meat at home, she needed her own pans because the pans would be contaminated with meat, even if they'd been through the dishwasher, and that the fridge was contaminated with meat. And the dad, basically, he's like, hey, you eat what you want to eat, but you can't tell me what to eat and what to cook in my own home. Which I agree with, that if you are, if you're the parent and you are running the household, that you should be allowed to eat what you want to eat in your own home.
Yeah, but people are kind of on the dad's side here. Like, some people are saying, get a special sponge for her, accommodate her as best you can. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like somebody's eating choices shouldn't necessarily affect the other. This one kind of hit home for me because my ex was vegetarian. And I mostly conformed to a vegetarian diet, but she never was like rude or mean about me eating meat. I mean, she wasn't going to kiss me after I ate 1,000 pounds of chicken wings with the chicken still in my teeth. There's certain accommodations we need to give. But I think there's a wider conversation here about like being supportive of people's life choices, but not having those choices like dictate our own behavior.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it's a little absurd for a teenager to be dictating the values of adults that hopefully have grappled with those questions. It sounds like he probably did take an inventory, like, do I want to give up meat? And the answer was a resounding no. But no matter the age, we cannot impose our values on other people. Right? Like, values are something very personal that give us meaning and purpose and drive and help us make decisions. And if you're imposing your values on someone else, it's not authentic to them, and there isn't going to be follow through and meaningful action taken.
And I think the story goes a little deeper here because the dad was describing the daughter saying the dishwasher is contaminated with animal products, even though dishwashers run water at boiling temperature. Every restaurant you've been to, if you look at it that way, then every plate you've ever eaten on is contaminated.
Right.
Saying things like the fridge is now contaminated with the father's bacon grease fingers because he touches bacon and then touches the fridge. There's a little more going on here. I mean, I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to throw like the phrase OCD around, but maybe you will.
Well, I can't diagnose someone I'm not treating. So this is not me giving a diagnosis, but I would be very curious if there is some OCD happening. For some people, veganism is totally meaningful, viable, empowering dietary lifestyle choice. And for some people, it can be a bit of a mask around OCD or control, fear of contamination, and kind of a means toward achieving something else. And that sounds a little bit like that might be happening here. Again, I'm not treating this family. I can't give a diagnosis, but if they were on my couch, I would be exploring this fear of contamination that's showing up, because that is kind of a classic hallmark of OCD.
How much do we have to accommodate? Maybe it's the wrong way to phrase this question. Do we have to accommodate? But how much should we accommodate people that we live with? Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a significant other who needs to do things like, I don't know, flick the lights on 10 times or they can't go to bed because I don't know why. But, these kind of like quirky, repetitive things. How much do we have to accommodate people who we live with who've got stuff like that?
That's a really tricky question, because it so depends on the individual. It depends on where they are in their willingness to examine the behavior as maladaptive or related to something like OCD. And it's a really slippery slope, because it may start off with, oh yeah, they need to flick the lights twice. Okay. But then OCD is one of those balloon experiences where it starts with flicking the light twice, and before you know it, you have a 2-hour ritual before you can leave the house. I like to say that OCD is the a-hole that goes after the thing that matters most to you. And that's certainly the case here. I mean, this teenager is looking to be kind of morally pure and to be righteous in the way that she eats. And that is completely up to the individual. And we also don't want to get into a reassurance loop that reinforces a maladaptive OCD pattern, right? So there's a handout that I give to family members and partners of people someone who has OCD called "When Reassurance is Harmful," because OCD is ultimately a pattern of anxiety spiking and then engaging in a behavior which can be reassurance seeking that brings the anxiety down. And that up and down pattern is the hallmark of OCD. And so when I see that kind of up and down, up and down, up and down, I know to look at like, okay, we actually need to interrupt this pattern. So when the anxiety spikes, we need to not engage in the thing that calms it down, because that just reinforces that loop, which is pretty uncomfortable for everyone. To stop reassuring, to stop engaging in the light flicking or the cleaning, or confessing is another one that's a common, or avoiding is a common ritual response to the anxiety spike. So it's really tricky and individualized. So sorry, I can't give you a specific answer about how much we should accommodate. But in general, if someone's in that pattern of seeking reassurance, it's often better to not give it.
It's interesting. And it's not just like OCD. It could be excessive anxiety. Like, for example, my girlfriend Miranda, she's going to hate that I'm telling this story. Phone calls used to really stress her out, like calling a restaurant and changing a reservation, or like calling a pharmacy to get a prescription. And she would always ask me to do those things for her. And when we were younger, I would. And then I realized, like, I'm not going to tell her she's wrong to be scared. But if I'm protecting her from that anxiety, I'm like preventing her growth. Now she's like a true New Yorker. She can call anyone on the phone and yell at them, no problem. But 5 or 10 years ago, it wasn't that way. I think this happens a lot with either parents or significant others, partners, husbands, wives, where we kind of like protect the other person from their own fears and anxieties. And it's not necessarily always a good thing.
Yeah, the muscle of making the phone call, doing the hard thing, tolerating the anxiety atrophies when someone else always steps in for us. And, when I'm working with parents, I say, like, your job is not to give your child a stress-free childhood. It's to give them the tools and the ability to cope with the hard things so they know that when it happens, they can handle it.
Well, from an online article about a dad supporting his daughter's veganism. I've enjoyed this conversation and all the places we've gone. Laurel Toorn can be found at Laurel Therapy Collective that serves California and Florida. She's a licensed therapist. Laurel, as always, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much, David.
This Friday,
I'm an angel. See the wings?
don't miss the new comedy Good Fortune, starring Seth Rogen, Aziz Ansari, and Keanu Reeves. Critics rave. It's Heaven Sent.
Let me have a budget, guardian angel?
Kinda.
You were very unhelpful. Good Fortune, directed by Aziz Ansari. Rated R.